Welcome to Cuddle Tales, your favourite channel for magical adventures and children's stories. Remember to like, share and subscribe to support our channel. Now get comfy, snuggle up and get ready for today's Cuddle Tale. Dude the Dog and the Missing Red Ball. The quiet of the morning was punctuated only by the soft ticking of the living room clock and the occasional crackle from the fireplace. On the sofa, Dude, an elderly black dog, slowly woke from his nap. Stretching his stiff legs, he yawned deeply, his thoughts immediately turning to his most cherished possession, a bright red ball. He scanned the room with his kind, slightly cloudy eyes, noticing the gentle sway of the curtains as a breeze slipped through a slightly open window. But his ball was not in its usual spot under the coffee table, nor was it behind the sofa or near his food bowl. Each familiar place he checked seemed emptier without the toy. The room was filled with the sounds of the crackling fire and the clock's rhythmic ticking, sounds that usually comforted him. But today, they only heightened his sense of loss. Dude moved slowly, his claws clicking softly against the wooden floor, as he sniffed each corner with meticulous care. The sofa creaked under his weight as he nudged behind it once more, hoping he might have missed his prized toy the first time. Finding nothing, Dude let out a soft sigh. The house was still, save for the gentle sounds of his movements and the distant hum of the city waking up outside. He moved towards the back door, his joints aching slightly as he walked. The door to the garden was ajar, letting in the fresh scents of the morning. Flowers blooming in the sun's early rays, and grass still damp with dew. As he stood in the doorway, a warm breeze caressed his face, carrying with it the fragrance of lavender and the earthy smell of freshly cut grass. Dude paused, closing his eyes for a moment to enjoy the sun's warmth on his fur. His tail gave a lazy wag as he contemplated the garden, a vast area with countless hiding spots that could conceal his red ball. The thought rekindled a spark of determination in the old dog. Perhaps the ball had rolled outside. Maybe during a particularly vigorous play session the day before. Yes, that must be it. Dude stepped out into the sunlight, his nose to the ground, ready to sniff out his beloved toy in the expansive garden that now seemed like a treasure trove of possibilities. The garden awaited, a familiar yet always new canvas for adventures, even if they were slower now than in his puppy years. The crunch of gravel under his paws, the chirping of the morning birds, and the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze accompanied him as he began his quest. Today, the garden was not just a place to relax, but a mystery to be solved, and Dude was ready, however leisurely, to solve it. Dude's search began in earnest as he padded out onto the lush greenery of the garden. His movements slow but purposeful. Each step through the grass was marked by the soft crunch of his paws against the mulch, a sound that mingled harmoniously with the rustle of the leaves and the faint buzzing of busy garden insects. Dude made his way to the flower beds first, where daisies bloomed in vibrant bursts of white and yellow. Nodding gently in the morning breeze. The air here was thick with the scent of lavender, each breath filled with its calming fragrance. As he sniffed among the flowers, his nose brushed against the soft petals, stirring a few bees from their nectar-laden work. They buzzed around his head, seemingly admonishing him for the intrusion before going back to their business. Moving on, Dude approached the rose bushes, their thorns a stark contrast to the softness of the daisies. He was careful as he nosed underneath them, the edges of his ears brushing against the cool leaves, sending a shiver down his spine. Here, in the shadow of the blooms, the garden felt like a different world, quieter and somehow more intimate. A butterfly caught his attention as it flitted by. Its wings were a delicate kaleidoscope of colours that captivated Dude so completely he paused just to watch it dance in the air. The garden soundscape was a soothing symphony. Rustling leaves played the high notes, while the distant hum of the city provided a steady bassline. Even the occasional chirp of a bird seemed to slow to match Dude's unhurried pace. He inhaled deeply, savouring the blend of earth and growth that only a garden could provide. His exploration next led him to the vegetable patch. Here, the scents were earthier, rich with the promise of harvest. His nose, ever so keen despite his age, picked up something different, a slight tang among the earthy smells. Curious, he followed the scent until he found a partially chewed carrot lying between the rows of budding vegetables. With a glance around to ensure no one was watching, he picked it up and gave it a few thoughtful crunches. The sound was satisfying, a quiet counterpoint to the softer noises of the garden. But even as he enjoyed his snack, the image of his red ball popped back into his mind, and with a guilty start, he remembered his mission. Leaving the remains of the carrot behind, he wagged his tail, a clear sign of his renewed determination, and trotted toward the garden shed. The shed stood at the far end of the garden, its wooden sides weathered by seasons of sun and rain. Dude approached it with an air of expectancy, his tail still wagging slowly. Would his beloved ball be inside? Perhaps hidden among the garden tools, or tucked away in some forgotten corner? Only a thorough search would tell. With each step toward the shed, the sounds of the garden grew fainter, replaced by the quiet anticipation of discovery. The soft creak of the shed door as he nudged it open with his nose seemed unusually loud in the stillness of the morning, signifying the next phase of his adventure. The door, now slightly ajar, invited him in with a faint, musty smell that spoke of long-forgotten secrets and quiet, dusty corners. With a gentle nudge of his nose, the door creaked open. its sound a soft echo in the still garden air. The interior of the shed was dim, the only light filtering through cracks in the wooden walls, and the open doorway casting long, slanting beams that cut through the gloom. Dude stepped inside cautiously, his claws scraping silently on the wooden floor, a sound that seemed amplified in the quiet space. The air was cool here, carrying the scent of oil and wood, mixed with the faint, underlying aroma of earth. The shed was cluttered with garden supplies. Pots stacked haphazardly against one wall, bags of soil leaning precariously in a corner, and gardening tools hanging from hooks on the walls. Dude's eyes adjusted to the dim light as he moved deeper, his ears catching the distant chirps of birds outside, a muffled soundtrack to his search. His attention was drawn to a pile of old boots and gardening gloves that lay discarded near the back of the shed. He sniffed at them, moving things around with his nose, hoping to uncover his beloved red ball hidden beneath. However, despite his thorough search, the pile yielded nothing more than a few spiders scurrying away from the disturbance. Disappointed but not deterred, Dude stepped back into the sunlight, blinking as his eyes readjusted to the brightness. He moved slowly towards the patio, his body feeling heavier with the small defeat of the shed. The patio was a familiar place, one where he often lay to bask in the sun. Today, it held the promise of further clues. He began his search methodically, sniffing under the outdoor chairs, where shadows lay cool and deep. Leaves, stirred by the gentle breeze, rustled under the table, gathering in small, whispering drifts in the corners. Dude's nose worked diligently, picking up the usual scents of the outdoors, mixed with the faint trace of his own scent that marked his usual paths. As he investigated one particularly leafy corner beneath the table, his search again turned up nothing. No trace of the missing ball. He sighed, a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to carry his disappointment. Tired now, he found a sunny patch on the patio's warm flagstones, The heat from the stone seeped into his old bones, comforting him. He lay down, letting out another long sigh as he settled his head onto his paws. The warmth enveloped him, soothing his tired muscles and whisking away the frustration of his fruitless search. After a few moments of basking in the sun, the rest seemed to invigorate him. With a slow, somewhat reluctant effort, Dude lifted his head and got back to his feet. His tail gave a lazy wag as he prepared to continue his quest, the rest having restored his resolve to find his cherished red ball. Rejuvenated by the sun's warmth, Dude resumed his investigation with a determined wag of his tail. His path took him along the garden wall, where shadows played tricks on the eyes, and the air carried a mix of earth and mystery. As he passed a particularly lush part of the garden, his ears perked up at the sound of a familiar voice. Perched atop the garden wall, Motsi the Cat sat grooming himself. His sleek black fur glistening in the sunlight. The cat's sharp yellow-green eyes followed Dude's slow progression with an air of amusement. "Looking for something, old-timer?" Motsi called out, a smirk in his tone as he paused to lick a paw. "Let me guess. It's round, red, and terribly important." Dude paused, considering whether to respond or simply carry on. He chose the former. His voice deep and a bit gruff from disuse. "Maybe." Motsi chuckled, his tail flicking with delight. "Good luck finding it with your pace." Before Dude could decide whether to bark or ignore the comment, Motsi stretched lazily, arching his back in a perfect curve, before gracefully disappearing over the wall. His parting flick of the tail seemed to carry a taunt all of its own. Dude watched the spot where Motsi had vanished, then shook his head slightly, as if to clear the distraction. The soft sounds of Motsi's paw steps faded, replaced by the distant chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Despite the interruption, Dude's attention returned to the task at hand, with a renewed sense of purpose. He sniffed the ground where Motsi had lounged, picking up nothing but the faint scent of a cat, a dead end in his quest for his red ball. Undeterred, Dude turned his attention back to the garden. His slow, deliberate steps carrying him along the base of the wall, his nose close to the ground as he searched for any trace of his beloved toy. The garden was peaceful, the only sounds now the soft rustling of movement and the occasional distant bark from another neighborhood dog. He made his way around to a quieter part of the garden, where the flowers gave way to a more open area, dotted with large stones and a few scattered toys, remnants of previous playful outings. Dude investigated each potential hiding spot, behind stones, under a discarded frisbee, even inside a small tunnel made for garden critters. But the red ball was nowhere to be found. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows and turning the garden gold with its evening light, Dude's search brought him back to the patio. He checked under the chairs and the table once more, pushing aside a few more leaves with his nose. Finding nothing, he settled down in a patch of sunlight, letting out a long, tired sigh. Though his search had been thorough, the ball remained lost. But as the day's light began to wane, Dude's resolve did not. He knew the evening might bring cooler temperatures and new scents, possibly uncovering new clues to the whereabouts of his treasured red ball. With a final lazy wag of his tail, he prepared to continue his quest, undaunted by the day's lack of success. Invigorated by the soft glow of the evening light, Dude retraced his steps towards the rose bushes, his senses heightened. The garden was quieter now, the bustling day's sounds fading into a calm dusk. As he approached, a faint, almost imperceptible scent tickled his nose, the unmistakable tang of rubber mixed with the earthy smell of garden soil. With measured steps, Dude circled the rose bushes, his nose twitching as the scent grew stronger. It was here, somewhere close. The soft rustle of the rose petals brushed against his fur, a gentle whisper in the quiet evening. He moved closer to the ground, his whiskers brushing the mulch as he sniffed intensely. Dude's tail began to wag slowly, a sign of growing excitement. There, nestled beside a cluster of daisies that bordered the rose bushes, was a small, muddy patch that seemed freshly disturbed. The earth was softer here, and the scent was stronger, almost calling to him. With delicate care, not wanting to harm the nearby flowers, Dude started to dig. The soft thud of his paws scooping the loose soil was accompanied by a comforting chorus of distant street noises and the occasional chirp of a late bird. As he dug, the soil turned over to reveal hints of red peeking through the brown earth. Dude's heart lifted. His movements became more purposeful as he carefully moved the dirt, trying not to send it scattering too far. Slowly, the evidence became clearer. A different red ball, similar, but not his favorite and special one. Pulling back, Dude paused to assess the discovery. His nose, now dusted with soil, picked up a stronger scent trail. It was the clear smell of his ball, mixed with the faint odour of damp leaves. The trail led away from the rose bushes, meandering toward the vegetable patch. With a sense of hope, Dude's pace quickened. His tail wagged more vigorously, cutting through the cool evening air with soft swooshes. He followed the scent, each step more confident than the last. The vegetable patch wasn't far, but each moment seemed to stretch, filled with the anticipation of reunion with his treasured toy. The vegetable patch loomed ahead, its rows orderly and quiet in the dim light. The scent led directly into it, growing stronger with each step. Dude's ears perked up, his body tensed with excitement. He moved faster, almost trotting now, the familiar joy of the hunt stirring in his chest. As he reached the edge of the vegetable patch, the scent became overpowering, enveloping him. It was here, somewhere amid the sprawling pumpkin vines and the stoic rows of carrots. His nose hovered over the ground, tracing the scent back and forth, zeroing in on its strongest point. The evening breeze picked up, rustling through the leaves and carrying with it the promise of success. Dude's journey through the garden, filled with distractions and detours, was culminating in this moment, a moment of quiet triumph as he closed in on the long sought after red ball. In the hushed calm of the evening, Dude's quest reached its joyful conclusion. Near the edge of the vegetable patch, just as the scent had promised, the red ball lay nestled under a cluster of autumn leaves, its bright colour muted by the shadows of the day's end. With tender care, Dude nosed the leaves aside and gently gripped the ball with his teeth. The familiar texture against his gums sent a wave of contentment through him. His tail thumped against the ground in a rhythmic beat of triumph. Eager to enjoy his find, Dude trotted back across the garden, the ball secure in his mouth. His paws pressed softly against the earth, creating a gentle crunching sound as they disturbed the fallen leaves and mulch. The muffled panting from his exertions harmonized with the serene chirps of the early evening birds, crafting a melody of satisfaction and peace. Reaching his favorite spot on the sunny lawn, Dude carefully set down his precious ball and flopped beside it, each movement deliberate and filled with relief. The soft grass cushioned his body as he stretched out, every muscle relaxing after the day's adventures. The red ball, the center of so many happy hours, rested within easy reach, a beacon of vibrant color in the dimming light. As Dude lay there, the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow that seemed to hold the entire garden in a warm embrace. His eyelids grew heavy, the gentle rise and fall of his chest slowing as he drifted towards sleep. The garden around him quietened, the lively sounds of the day giving way to the soothing hum of evening insects and the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. In these peaceful moments, the world seemed to pause, allowing Dude his well-earned rest. His head nestled against his paws, the red ball by his side, a silent testament to the day's joy and struggle. The last rays of sun highlighted his fur, turning it into a soft halo as the shadows lengthened. The scene held a tranquil beauty, the kind that whispered of simple joys and the deep bond between a dog and his favourite toy. A distant dog barked once, twice, then fell silent, its voice carried away by the breeze. In the garden, all was calm. Dude's breathing deepened, his sides expanding slowly with each breath. The red ball, though dulled by the earth and the play of the day, seemed to glow in the fading light, a symbol of loyalty and love returned. The garden, bathed in the hues of the sunset, was a haven of peace, a small world where the troubles of the larger one could not intrude. As the light finally faded, the day closed gently, with a scene of contentment and the quiet assurance of dreams filled with endless chases and joyful reunions with well-loved toys. The garden, Dude, and the red ball settled into the night, the memory of the day's adventure lingering like a soft echo, promising more tales in the peaceful days to come. The end.